and you should be able to see us in the flesh now. Like I said, we're just going to let the audio and video sync. It does take about 10 seconds or so. And also, it's not quite 8:30 p.m. yet, so we wouldn't want to be liars by saying this started at 8:30 and start at 8:29 because we're not maniacs.
He's speaking for himself
Speak
again.
for yourself.
Right, 8:30, we're started. Welcome. Merry Christmas, everyone. We hope you've had a fantastic festive period. What day are we on now? Fourth day of Christmas?
Somewhere in between.
Like that, yeah.
I've lost track of everything.
It's still in the 20s of December.
Yeah, so plenty more days of Christmas to celebrate. So we hope you're joining us to celebrate one of those days today, or if you're watching this tomorrow or next year, because you are a maniac, then we hope you're having a beer to celebrate. I am Nick Smith. I am the Chief Beer Educator here at the Fellowship of Beer, and I am joined today by Justin Cooper.
Hello.
Just touch your knee there.
I felt it.
And Phil Norman.
Hello.
Like I said, I'm Nick Smith. I'm the Chief Beer Educator. I also happen to be the founder of Steam Machine, co-founder of Steam Machine Brewing Company, where we happen to be right at this moment. Steam Machine Brewing Company is a thriving craft brewery in the middle of Newton Aycliffe, and that's where Fellowship of Beer HQ is. So if you hear the clinks of glasses, that's not us, or the cries of laughter, or, beer being thrown on the floor or something like that. It is a working brewery and busy tap room, so that's what's happening downstairs and through the other wall there. One of our guests is Justin Cooper. Justin Cooper is a hospitality industry veteran. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Makes you sound old.
I'm an old veteran, yes.
Veteran.
Yeah, doesn't make me feel like the grandpa of the...
The venerable Justin, as we know him in the beer industry. He has survived hotel, bar, restaurant trade, and has worked in the craft beer industry for a number of years. And he's been a craft beer enthusiast for even longer. Does that sound about right?
It sounds about right. I've forgotten most of it.
It's like this is your life.
He's also, Phil just found this out, even though he's known of Justin on Twitter for a while. Justin is Middle Glass Ed, not called Ed, on Twitter, and is prominent in the beer community. It's a nice place to be, the Twitter beer community, isn't it?
If you get it right, yes. In the main, it can be really friendly and talk about the right things. Just make sure you go down the right corridors.
I mean, because that's my experience of Twitter, and I know lots of people have toxic experience of Twitter. I'm like, what? Hate on Twitter? What? I just follow nice people talking about beer.
Yeah,
you.
You are pretty active on that.
Yeah, but you have to. It's like the beer list. You have to curate who you're following, who you're allowing to follow you, without becoming an echo chamber, of course. But you've got it. Takes some effort to weed out the stuff that you really don't want to see or don't want to hear, without ignoring the things happening.
Sounds good. And we're also joined by Phil Norman. Phil Norman, as anyone who follows Steam Machine will know, is he's been a member of Team Steam for many a year.
Getting on 4 years now.
No scars to prove it, because he's still got his boyish good looks.
Just really good with health and safety.
Phil is the brewery manager here. He's also a member of the brew team and one of our Steam Machine hat models as well.
Yeah. I've worked myself up from bar to squeegee to an office now.
Yeah. So. Although he does still hold the gold medal squeegee championship.
Nobody's taken that
2 years in a row. And the trophy is there for the winning guys. If you want to practice your squeegee skills, get down here on Brew Day and let's see what you can do.
Good luck.
So this show is called All About Beer. It is run by the Fellowship of Beer. Now, some of the Fellowship of Beer's aims are bridging the gap between beer beginner and beer expert. And it's also about bringing the beer community together in a nice, safe, friendly environment. So we thought, how better to do that than this show? Invite people along, drink some tasty beer. This is not beer. We'll get to beer. And have a good chat and answer any of your questions. It is a two-way experience, this video, so any questions you have as the video is going, any questions you have about us, about the beer industry, about beer, about home brewing, about craft brewing, just our favorite colors, anything like that, drop it on to the comments and we will get to it in time. The way this show came about is because we have a course called All About Beer. All About Beer course first ran before summer this year. Wow, we'll be saying last year soon. And it was a wonderful course that attracted people who from all over the world on different stages of their beer journey. We had professional brewers, we had home brewers, we had people with casual interest, we had professional bar people as well. And it was a live course that ran each week. So the big part of it was that live interaction with the people joining the course. Now, that wasn't appropriate for everyone who wanted to do the course. So we have pre-recorded loads of content, worksheets, video clips, interactive diagrams, infographics, all that kind of thing where people can access who do the course. But we still wanted to retain the live element. So to kill two birds with one stone, that's what the All About Beer live show is about. It's a chance for anyone who is on that course. And we are joined today by graduates, and we are joined today by current students of the course. So welcome graduates, welcome current students. But also this is a place for general beer enthusiasts. So you are all welcome here. And George Dodds, one of our graduates, was a damn good course. We thank you, George. That's very good of you. That £5 we promised you for saying that as the first comment is being PayPal'd over to your account right now. Cheers, George. Good to have you here. So that's what the All About Beer course is. We are on the live show and we are going to the rough running order, if we don't get sidetracked, is getting to know our beer guests, getting to hear about some of their wonderful beer experiences, followed by life in the beer industry. And speaking of life in the beer industry, we are joined by Alex Redpath live as well. Alex, big shout out to you. Alex is the operations manager / head brewer at our friends Full Circle in Newcastle. Alex was also a keen home brewer and beer enthusiast before he took that path. So cheers, Alex. Pleased to have you here. We will also be talking about beer and food pairings and cooking with beer because we love food. I mean, certainly I love food. All of this is paid for.
Were we supposed to bring food?
We will have food. What, you didn't bring food? Oh, man, this show's gone right downhill before it even begins. And then once we've run through all of that, we will just move away from our formal setting into the All About Beer, Fellowship of Beer lounge.
You just named it.
Yeah, I just named it that. I mean, it's generally speaking, it's my office where I hide because no one can bother me and I can sit on my laptop. And we will drink a couple more beers. The theme tonight is winter beers. Now, if that is something you want to know more about after the show, you can check out the Fellowship of Beer's YouTube channel because that is something we have been discussing as of late, as well as enjoying a few cheeky treats alongside them. So, without further ado, this is a beer show called All About Beer. Can we be rude not to crack open our first beer?
Shall we have a beer? Let's have a beer.
Beer refill.
What's our first beer refill?
We're going with a Sammy Klaus classic.
Have you ever had that?
No,
I've had it.
I haven't.
I've had a few.
I've had it because you bought me one.
I bought you two, I think.
Yeah.
I bought one because I had it like 4 years ago and it was delicious. And when we were like looking at winter beers, I thought it would be rude not to try find this again, but I thought I can't really remember how it tastes, so we'll track it down.
Yeah, so you did.
So I did, and it didn't disappoint. Like terrible dirty glasses there. Who polished these? So just a quick note on glassware. Middle Glass Ed will espouse the use of a perfect glass for a perfect beer. We're a bit more rock and roll when it comes to glassware. These are wine glasses, mavericks of the beer glass world. These are glasses from a charity shop. They have been cleaned since the charity shop. Just we're in a box at the back of the cupboard. Honest, we should have cleaned that. So unprofessional. So anyone tuning in now knows us for amateurs. And the reason, if you see us as beer professionals, if we are sniffing and swirling beers and talking about aroma, that's because that is our job. That's what we do on a daily basis. Look, guys, someone's got to make the hard life choices so you guys don't have to. If that's not taking one for the team and representing the country, I don't know what is.
We have to stick our nose where nobody else will.
So no glassware, the best one to use is the glass that's nearest the hand, but we tend to use wine glasses because they funnel the aromas perfectly in. So
is that what you would go for with?
I would go for, I mean, like, I've got a bigger one over there, which is my favourite one that came from a charity shop. But with a beer like this that, you know, we're going to talk about in a moment, has so many like sherry notes and stuff like that. It's perfect for a little glass like this. What are we getting, boys and girls?
Is it brandy?
Yeah. Definitely brandy notes.
Dried fruits. Loads of dried fruits.
Dried fruits.
It's 14% this one.
14%.
We started with a 14% beer.
So a high all from Terry there. Terry is another one of our All About Beer graduates of the class of 2021.
Like it.
It's like my hashtag class of 2021.
Nice.
You've got your own hand signals now, haven't
you? Yeah, it's just freestyling it.
The interesting thing about this beer is they brew it on December the 6th every year.
And then
age it for 10 months and then package it for release. Well, that's a bit of pressure on a brew day, isn't it? December the 6th. It's all got to come together.
Guys, don't F this up.
I mean, because we all know that when you say it's going to get brewed on that day, it's going to get brewed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They wouldn't have to do or relabel it or anything.
No.
So it's an Austrian beer from the Eggenberg Brewery. It has a picture of the Austrian Santa Claus on the front.
It does have that brandy sweetness.
For me, it's almost like a Belgian quadruple, but cleaner. It's like it doesn't have.
Sorry, do you not get smoke on it as well?
I get a tad of smoke on the end, definitely. Yeah. You know, there's so much malt complexity there. And for those that want to delve into something even posher, this is their Barrique, which is the same one, but it's barrel aged in various different barrels, and then they blend it together.
The barrels are from a winery in Israel.
Andrew says he was doing the tasting. We wish you were as well, Andrew. They come from Israel.
Yeah, the wine barrels.
That's crazy.
Galilee in Israel.
But so it is like holy beer.
Oh, it is. It's as Christmas as you can get. It's got a picture of Santa Claus on the bottle. For Christ's sake, do you know what I mean?
I mean, Santa Claus in an Austrian hat because he's Austrian Santa Claus.
Oh yeah, okay. Santa Claus.
Sammy Claus. Overall, what do you reckon?
Really nice. I mean, you talk about winter beers. That is a winter beer.
Yeah, it's sat in front of the fire with a bit of. Now, I don't eat cheese. This is an interesting fact. I don't eat cheese. I don't eat cheese.
I saw that we were tweeting.
Yeah,
tweeting.
Yes, you mentioned
about cheese.
You mentioned Chimay cheese, and I don't do cheese, but it's something I can imagine you sitting with the cheese in front of the fire, because to have maybe a fruitcake would be too much because all of the fruitcake's in there.
Yeah,
and I know that people from certain areas of the country will have cheese and fruitcake.
Yeah,
so
people from quite close to here, Yorkshire.
Yeah.
My grandparents always had cheese and fruitcake.
Yeah,
did they?
So, but that's why, even though I don't eat cheese, I listen to a lot of people who do and how they describe them. So then I can match that idea in my head with the beer. So even though I don't eat it, I could say, well, that would really go well with cheese in particular.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to talk about that more on that later on, but that's a really interesting thought, and we're going to hold that thought. Firstly, got a couple of questions for you guys.
Okay.
And I think I'll start with Justin. Fellowship of Beer is all about beer experiences, and as is Steam Machine Brewing Company, we want everyone who walks through the doors in our brewery to have a fantastic time. And we want them to walk away having, wow, I was served by the people who make the beer. The tanks were there in front of me, all lit up. I could smell the hops and the barley. It was a great experience. So can you tell us about a great beer experience you've had, where you were, what you were drinking, other than here tonight?
Yeah, well, because that would be top of the list, wouldn't it?
You're top of the list.
Yeah. I think it's not easy to pick things out unless like really, really memorable. However, I would say that whilst working in the sales role of various breweries, that doing a beer pairing with a restaurant was really interesting and a really good experience. I don't know if you know of Coughlan's over at Barning.
Rings a bell.
Yeah. So the idea was that we would have quite a long tasting course menu, and with beers paired with them all. And why it was a great experience was, okay, my wife was there and there were friends there, but there were lots of people who didn't or hadn't normally seen beer as something to have with food. And the experience that they had of recognizing what they might normally say with wines, they were actually using the same terminology about the beers they were having, so it opened it up to them, and they suddenly thought, I can speak about beer in wine terms, which is the same that we do. We do, the aroma, the clarity, the bitterness, body, the flavour, all things that you get across the wine industry. So I think that for me, it was other people were enjoying something that I do anyway.
Yes.
And so that made it a lot more fulfilling to have people come along for the ride. We had a sommelier there with us as well, who did talks on each course, and the brewery owner matched them all as well, and and gave everyone an idea of how things work and why they work. But we made sure that after every course, we got feedback from everybody, just so that we don't become like kind of too preaching. Say this is what you must taste, this is what you must smell. A lot of the time, it's nice to give someone a glass and just go, well, tell me what you can smell.
Yeah, it's about
tell
having a conversation rather than telling them what.
Because we can put anything we like on the back of a bottle or on the back of a can, because we know what we've put in ingredients wise. But does that transmit to the end consumer? So being in the same space as people who didn't have that normal experience was great to go, yeah, it actually works.
So like chefs always say that the best thing about being a chef is seeing the happy people after they've eaten food. And, for people who work in the craft beer industry, being connected to the beer that we produce, it's that doubly so. And especially, here at Steam Machine, you see everyone who works at Steam Machine at some point behind the bar. And, hearing people, seeing people enjoying that beer is a really special thing. Phil, same question for you.
It's a good question. I suppose 90% of the time you ask that question, people will base their answer on a situation. So it'll be like, you were sat at sunset and you had a really average beer, but 3 dolphins jumped out of the ocean. It was the most amazing experience.
Oh, that sounds romantic. I wish I was there.
So I've never done that. So I'll talk about the last beer experience I had, which was 2 days ago in Newcastle, and I went to the Town Mouse in Newcastle. I don't know whether you've been there.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, absolutely amazing experience.
Justin's been everywhere.
Yeah, of course,
we don't call him Justin. Alley Cat.
I'll let you take that statement back.
You talk about beer experience, but the whole experience of it was just absolutely first class from the moment we walked in. He's such an engaging guy in there anyway. It's a great atmosphere. He's super knowledgeable, super enthusiastic. His beer list is brilliant, whether it's cask or keg. His fridges are full of different stuff, a massive diverse range of beers. The whole experience is just like a really good beer experience.
Really?
Best beer I had was actually a Don Zorco smoked Helles, which was really, really nice. Really nice. And he's called it Super King, which is obviously a play on the cigarette, which I thought was quite cool. You should have just called it Tabs.
Bar tabs.
Yeah.
All right. So shout out to Coughlan's Brewery. Coughlan's, you said?
Coughlan's restaurant.
Oh, sorry. Shout out to the Town Mouse.
Yeah.
Great beer experiences all around. We have another question. Oh, it's just frozen and stuttered.
Just when you talk.
People know they can. I thought I said, do people know they can cry before they buy? I mean, like you can cry.
You cry after they buy.
It's
cry when they see the prices.
This is an open This is an open place to share your feelings. You can cry anytime you like. Beer, it can be emotional. That's the sign of a great craft brewery or tap room or, pub, anywhere that will encourage you to have samples of their things before you buy them. And because we want you to have a great experience.
It's 100% something that we encourage here.
Yes, definitely.
Even when it's busy.
They say, if joking aside, you said, oh yeah, they cry afterwards because of the prices, but you would rather someone spent their hard-earned money on something they're going to enjoy than get something and go, all right, well, try it. If you don't, great, move on. Spend your money where it needs to be spent.
So as we finish up this beer, I'd like you. Clearly, that didn't clear my mouth. With the next section, we're going to talk about the craft beer industry itself. So before we do that,
next beer,
let's have another beer.
These are nice branded glasses. Just
look at that.
Oh, lovely finger marks.
Caps off. Have these been polished?
They were before they came out.
Oh well, that's good.
But we all know. Well, no, we don't all know, but most of us know that I'm quite finicky. Is that the word?
Finicky.
Yeah. So
good word.
What about your glasses?
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter you were drinking Imperial Mild in a pint glass the other day.
Yes. Because
that was because it was Christmas Day.
But at least it's Steve Machine.
He lets standard slip once a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've heard
that's going. That's coming over the top. That's a gusher. What's it called?
Noel, this one.
Père Noël, is that
Christmas beer. I don't know whether that's how you pronounce it. It's how I pronounced it.
Don't let Nick do it because he always manages to.
I'm good at butchering
pronunciations.
What pronunciations?
Butchering pronunciations. Can you tell us a little bit about this beer?
It's a Christmas beer. It's at 7%.
It's got a picture of Santa Claus on the front.
It's a spice beer, I believe.
Ooh, spices in beer. Spicing things up. Did you see what I did there?
So, where does all of that extra head and carbonation come from?
More CO2 dissolved in it. Belgian yeasts tend to ferment out quite a lot drier than a lot of other yeasts. And Belgian breweries do prefer a higher level of condition than we're used to. And and now don't quote me on this, even though this is about beer education, is a lot of Belgian beer used to be bottled in recycled champagne bottles. And that champagne bottles can hold a higher carbonation. A lot of Belgian beers also come from common people, from farmers and stuff like that. So on a hot day after you've been working out, it can be a very refreshing thing having something very sparkling compared to something.
I think it's quite unusual to get a Belgian beer in
a paper wrap.
Well, no, the size of the bottle and not to be corked.
Yeah. Oh, good shout.
It's just a bottle.
It's usually corked. Yeah. I mean, I love the paper wrap. How's your French or Dutch or Flemish?
What do you want me to do with it?
I just want to know if we can glean anything from the bottle. Because I tried to
beer fermented in the bottle with taste evolution.
Excellent.
That's all we've got. I can give you the address of the brewery.
So quite a lot of Belgian beers have spices in them, and they up those for their Christmas specials. But a lot of the time, they don't even put that spice blend on the ingredients list. A lot of beers that are Belgian beers may have spice in that surprise you, ones that you don't think, because quite a lot of Belgian beers which are spiced, they're spiced to taste neutral, just to have a certain je ne sais quoi. A bit of extra.
So you wouldn't necessarily taste the coriander.
No. So, and coriander's a good one. A lot of them contain coriander because coriander it can increase citrusy notes and woody notes without necessarily tasting of coriander. So what are we getting on the aroma? Can we glean any spices from that?
But when the head was still there, I really wasn't getting much aroma at all. Like a distant kind of green fruit, but that was about it. So it's kind of waited to the head to dissipate and get anything else from it.
So a quick hello and cheers to us all from Gulan. She is the co-founder of Steam Machine Brewing Company, the one who isn't here tonight. She also happens to be my beautiful wife. Cheers, my dears. I get quite zestiness, and using orange peel and stuff is very common in Belgian beers.
Super zesty. Nice glass as well, by the way, Justin. It's very nice.
Perfect match.
Great glass. Nice funnel. I mean, I've got a similar glass. Can I show my similar glass? This was my favourite glass from the charity shop. It doesn't have caps off written on it, but pretty good batch, I'd say.
Could be arranged.
Yeah, okay, got a caps off sticker.
A small collab thing.
So would this be hopped or?
Definitely,
hopped
you
or,
can.
yeah.
I don't think it'd be dry hopped, not usually, but you can. There's quite a medium level of bitterness there. So, guys, each of you, would you mind giving us a brief outline of how you got into the craft beer industry? Phil, you're up.
Wow. Well, I had an amazing career in the civil service, which lasted 17 years, and then I left, spent some time abroad, came back, wanted to do something very different. Started working behind the bar, really, just to keep me ticking over at Steam Machine.
Good bar.
That soon became full time. Can we talk about was it my first shift where I ended up selling beer out of a pop-up tent in a theatre in Durham?
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
If you've not served beer from a pop-up tent anywhere, you're not craft.
And I still came back for more.
Came back for more. And then your second shift was the launch of our Cherry Double IPA.
Yeah.
In Head of Steam, and I went to Head of Steam as a Meet the Brewer event in Durham, and left you and Ash, who worked here at the time, managing this beer launch at the brewery. And I came back and it was like
Saving Private Ryan, wasn't
it? It was just like cherry beer,
just bodies everywhere, covered in like.
Oh my god, we've broken the people of Aycliffe. It was pretty horrendous. There was like quite a lot of sick.
Yeah, and then as time went on, really, I found the squeegee. Or did the squeegee find me?
Who knows?
Don't know. And I got involved in the brewing side of things, and that developed. And I suppose the natural progression was to start getting involved in like the management side and leadership side.
It was pretty much a case of last man standing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm the sole survivor.
It was like when people go through the trenches in World War
I'm
I.
still there. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a great thing. Please have it here. Quick shout out to Colin. Hello, hotties, he says. Smooth talk.
I miss you, Colin.
Could you quickly, Phil, tell us what a typical day in the craft beer industry for you?
Typical day for me. Well,
yeah, give us a quick lowdown.
The thing is, it's a tricky question because no day is ever the same. So my role, I cover the overseeing of brewing and packaging. There's event organisation. There's obviously staff to look after, and that's day to day. It completely changes.
Yeah,
you're not brewing every day.
No,
you're not packaging every day. So there is no days the same. Obviously, it's been different the last year and a half because of the pandemic.
It's kept life interesting, really.
Yeah, but I think as a business, we have been really resilient. We've been flexible, and which is why we're kind of still thriving at the other end of it.
Yeah,
I think that's because of the staff we've got. We've been quite lucky, and it's been challenging, but it's good to look back at it and to be out the other side and
definitely
still going strong.
I
was a pizza chef for a year. So.
Half a year. Quick shout out to Simon Appleton. Hello from Hush Brewing. Follow Hush Brewing on TikTok. They are friends of ours on TikTok. Follow them everywhere. Lovely people. Thanks for joining us.
Great
Cheers,
brewing.
Simon. Justin, same question to you. How did you get into the craft beer industry? And tell us about a typical day in the life for Justin.
See, unfortunately, you used the word veteran earlier, and so it does take me back quite a while. And my entrance into the craft brewing industry, as you maybe see it now, didn't happen till around about 2010, because previously everything was, in my world, was like fairly traditional. My first experience of working in the bar was at the Borret Arms Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
Nice, very nice.
And I look back now and realise that some of the practices we used there were kind of what set me up for the later craft experience, making sure that, the landlord, the sales landlord was perfect, that the Fixings XP was all right from the wood, making sure.
Did you pick up a lot of cellar and experience and stuff like that?
And not formally, but kind of like picked that up and
On
then
the job,
came back to it later on. And so from doing that, moving away to uni, coming back to the northeast, had to, go through a whole different gamut of places, hotels, restaurants, pubs, as you said. So I've kind of been in it when it's changed, if you like. So I was living and working up in Gosforth, and that's when things really sort of took off. I think one of the proponents of the craft up there at that time was the Brandon Villa, Dave Carr. So the whole thing was happening. And then as things have moved on again, and I've come out of being stuck behind the bar, moved into the brewing side, well, the brewery side, the sales side, what with having, the mouth and things. So I've been kind of through it, but like embraced it as well. But still see those kind of quite essential traditional elements of what needed for the base of whatever you're doing now, or whatever we're doing now.
Yeah, I must say that Justin has a super reputation for being hard working on the sales side of things. And there was a point where I don't think we went for a beer in the north of England,
wherever we were,
where he didn't
appear
with.
We were in York once, and he turned up with like 3 different bars.
He was like the ghost of free samples.
You were in the Three-Legged Mare.
We were,
yeah. Because we picked up our collaboration beer that we'd done with the brewery you used to work for. Yeah, good stuff. A quick question here from Steve, who is an Aycliffe expat who's lived in Norway since he was a wee lad. Is the Belgian one a sour beer? I bought a similar one at Christmas and it was great. Unusual, spicy and strong. And it won the casual Yule Ale tasting evening.
It's definitely not sour.
No sourness to it at all. If anything, one of the 2 leading flavours are, malt sweetness followed by a really decent bitterness, a really decent herbal hop
lingers
bitterness.
As well, doesn't it?
It does linger the bitterness. I'd say it's the most beery beer I was not expecting it to be quite so beery.
It's really good.
If I may be so bold as to use that word beery.
Yeah.
Justin, very quickly, could you tell us what a typical day in the life looks like for you, representing Capsoft as a sales manager?
I think, mirroring Phil's comment is that, especially over these last 2 years, there's been no typical day. Mm-hmm. So whilst my title may involve sales, it's actually been about doing whatever the brewery needs to get from day to day, from week to week, to month. So we launched as a brewery in February before lockdown.
Yeah.
So we started producing beer, went to Brew London, all dead happy. Yeah, it's all going to work great. And then 6 weeks later, got told you can't sell beer.
Oh, I remember you lot when you were starry-eyed going to Brew London.
It'll be dead easy. This brewery line. So that resilience, that ability to adapt and do whatever's necessary within your plan to keep going. So a lot of my work has been behind the scenes, just having those conversations with the brewers, with retailers, with the end consumer about what they're looking to do, what they're going to need, and then being there at the right time when we can finally produce it. So then we spent the last 6 months doing exactly that, and now we're kind of okay. What happens next? So it's never now about here's some stuff, buy it.
No,
it's a case of I need to find out what it is that we all need to do to get to the next week. And so there is no typical.
It's almost day to day, isn't it? At the minute,
because you can't really predict anything. General trend. Yeah,
but even this, we don't know. Obviously, there's rumours about restrictions coming in, so we don't know what's happening next week.
No,
and people expect us to have planned whatever's next.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing I noticed in the bars in Newcastle the other day, is they were literally apologising because they didn't have the usual huge beer list, because they haven't been able to order beer because they don't know what's going to happen. So there's a wait that they just don't.
Speaking of Newcastle, we have a question here from Craft Beer Newcastle. Craft Beer Newcastle is a page and website run by Daisy Turnell. Daisy works tirelessly on behalf of the Northeast beer scene. She always has fantastic up-to-date information about the Northeast beer and brewing scene. So go follow that page, please, guys. Go give her a follow on Twitter, wherever you are. She says, what advice would you give to someone looking to change career to work in the craft beer industry? We'll answer that question just before we move on to our next section, which is about food. Justin, do you have any advice for people looking to move into the craft beer industry?
I think one of the things that we look at, especially as employees from a taproom side of it, is that don't discount moving into it if you've got no experience, because you tend to find that teaching new habits is a lot easier than trying to teach out old habits.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I've been in it for quite a while, so I've had to make sure that I've kept myself up to date with things. Whereas if you come into it fresh, you've got fresh eyes, you've got a fresh outlook. And I think if you're looking at the craft brewing industry from, for want of a better term, the outside, then you might come to it with fresh ideas. It's the same thing. People always need fresh eyes. So whatever skills people have from whatever walk of life, they'll be somewhere where it fits.
Yeah.
Example, our tap room, our new tap room manager used to work for a major supermarket chain in a completely different role, but it's their customer and retail experience that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And then we can show them where the craft brewing element comes from.
Yeah.
So I think that, if you've generally got an interest in it, then there's no harm in just approaching people.
Yeah, and I would say as well, if you say you want a job at your local brewery or whatever, don't be put off by starting. Say it's not what you want to do, but start behind the bar, because within weeks they'll have you helping out in packaging anyway.
Yeah.
Within months you'll be helping out in brewing.
Yes.
And your passion and your enthusiasm will then make you an integral part of that anyway.
I think what you said there is really important. Having a passion for the industry, having a passion for the products that are at the place where you're working are the most important things. If you go above and beyond, if you show willing, if you say, look, I've been learning about this, look, I've gone and read about this, look, I've been out and I've tasted this, I've been there and I've been talking to these people about that, the enthusiasm is going to shine through. And like Justice says, speaking on behalf of Steam Machine, we do not employ a single person who has ever worked in the craft beer industry. We only employ one person outside of the kitchen who's ever worked in hospitality. The rest of us came from all kinds of walks of life, and it's really about the passion that drives it. So what I would suggest is being upfront and honest with any employer about your own ambitions, about won't it? Try this. Try that. Hey guys, if you're joining us, just had a few technical issues. How is that sounding now? If you can hear us, give us a quick yes. Obviously, you won't be able to give us a no because, yay! Woohoo! All right, we were just pouring out.
That was a really good segment. Sorry you missed it, guys.
Whole thing's over now.
Swiftly moving on.
This is our Grand Bazaar, which is Steam Machine's Imperial Carob Green Cardamom and Cinnamon Stout. It's 11.6%. It's a decadent beer, and I'm pairing this with Steam Machine's Christmas mince pie baklava because, as Imperial Stouts, as Justin was talking about before, sometimes you quite often don't want to match like flavors with like flavors, but on the rare occasion you do, interesting things happen. Now, Imperial Stouts tend to have a lot of dried fruit. They tend to have sherry, boozy notes. And that's exactly what we're going to get from this baklava, especially because it's been cooked with the Grand Bazaar Stout. Now, what that does is they almost cancel each other out. And it allows you to look beyond the normal thing you would taste in either the food or the beer, and you will get other complex flavors which are hidden behind layers. But when you have a second sip, it washes away that food and you get back the original beer. So give it a go. This is what we call complementary beer tasting. And one of the things we do when we are beer and food pairing is we're trying to match intensity of flavor as well. So these things are both quite intense. Would you like a bit of baklava? Take that bit.
Tell the other half.
Would you like a bit of mince pie baklava? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to have a little bit of a taste of the baklava, and I would like you then to taste a little bit of the Grand Bazaar as well, just afterwards. And you will get completely different flavors from the Grand Bazaar because those rich fruit, spice, booze flavors are going to be removed from your taste experience of the beer.
I mean,
so what you're going to be left with is
a really nice Imperial Stout with some amazing sweet stuff. So that definitely works.
But then what happens on your second sip is you then taste the Imperial Stout in its entirety, beyond the sweetness. So this is what we call matching complementary food flavors rather than, and this is where beer has won over on wine, is because a lot of wine tasting and wine food pairing relies on opposites. It relies on complete contrast of flavors, and that's a really good way to food and beer pair. But just to mix it up a bit, this is the opposite side. Now, on top of that, we have some nibbles. Don't worry about eating them all right now. Phil. But these are things which have been cooked with beer as well. So we have our own home cured bacon, just being cured with our treacle toffee stout. Pickled eggs. I don't know what beer these have been pickled in, but we've made a vinegar from one of our beers, and the same with these pickled vegetables. Do you know anything about the ham?
I know nothing about the ham.
I don't know anything about the ham.
I know that the eggs were pickled in our brown ale.
Our brown ale?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. The ham has definitely been cured somehow with our, I think it's been beer brined.
Okay.
So if you would care for any of those along with your Imperial Stout.
So the bacon was cured with treacle toffee stout?
Yes.
Okay.
Crazy talk. So it takes quite a while, and that's why I thought while we were off for the Easter holiday, not the other one, Christmas holiday, we thought we'd like stick some bacon in. So we can help ourselves to that now. Amazing. Or just afterwards when we have our after party.
Amazing. I'll have another look.
It'd be rude not to.
So in terms of the ingredients you use for the baklava,
yeah,
you said you used the Grand Bazaar in.
Yes.
But what else is different about that?
So it's a pastry that's kind of similar to phyllo pastry. I think it's called yufka pastry, and it's like a layered pastry, and that's really what makes baklava. So, and when that pastry is usually layered in pistachio, hazelnut, walnuts, and then it's soaked in a very light syrup. It's a very pale syrup usually. It's like it's a very pale sugar syrup. Instead, what he's done is he's made like a syrup of the Grand Bazaar, of all the mince pie fruit flavorings, and he's then doused everything in that and allowed it to set So the pastry, the layers of pastry soak up all of those syrupy, boozy goodness.
It works.
Or from Steve Livingston there, pickled cucumber and serrano ham. Any dried salt meat is good. Yeah, I mean, salted meat works with beer so well because you have that saltiness and you have the fattiness. And
That's why your bar snacks are salty as well.
Yeah, and it's because beer is intrinsically, most beer is refreshing. But one thing that beer has, again, over most wine is beer has bubbles. And those bubbles strip away the lipids which are stuck to those fat particles from eating the ham, which are around your mouth, and those bubbles strip it away and make it very clean and refreshing. So, Justin, I believe you wanted to tell us about exciting cooking with beer that you do, and drop a celebrity name in there.
Well,
all right,
has to be done.
With a beer. I've been talking too much. I need to.
Are we going caps off?
Caps off. Tell us about this beer.
How this has turned up today, Justin.
So the reason I brought that one along is twofold. Really, it's we did that one for Christmas. So it's a salted caramel, coconut, chocolate imperial stout.
Oh, lovely!
Just wanted to have a bit of fun with something in the run up to Christmas, and just all those kind of Christmassy flavours without looking at fruits and spices that we wanted to play around with. It's only 9.1, so it's just a
breakfast
nice.
beer.
We could have had a coffee and made it a breakfast one, so we'll probably do that with the second version. But the other reason that I brought it along was Nick was asking about cooking with food, and it's one of the beers that I'm now using in a recipe that I picked up from The Beer Kitchen by Melissa Cole, which is a beef rendang. Normally uses a coconut beer in it, so you've got that kind of nut element that you would expect from using ground nuts in that recipe. And then the complexity and density of the chocolate gives a real richness to it, because it's slow cooked for so long as well. It removes any of that bitterness, makes it a really, I think, is it unctuous? Is that the right word?
If you're on MasterChef, you have to say unctuous 5 times per episode.
Do we have to say buttery biscuit base at some point?
Yeah.
So obviously, quite often use Neptune's Bounty to make the recipe, and as we've now brewed a coconut beer, a beer with coconut, I should say, it just seemed the right thing to use in the recipe. I'd love your thoughts.
Yeah, it's delightful. I get coconut. I get a little bit of toast. I get a little bit of posh barista coffee, and I get a spring. When you get really bitter
chocolate.
I was going to say really bitter cocoa dusting.
Yeah.
like you do on an adult truffle.
It's not like an overly sweet chocolate.
No. So the addition of the salt in that is to kind of reduce that sweetness.
Okay.
So it's more of a dark chocolate. You're looking maybe something where you would have 75% cacao in it.
Yeah.
And so we use cacao nibs in as well, so it's not overly chocolatey.
Okay.
So it's just one that I'll be using in that recipe. Same thing as just last night, made bolognese for the family. Normally it would probably have red wine and milk and nutmeg, but substituted that for Hefeweizen.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah,
because I tend to put nutmeg and oregano in the dish, so then it accentuates all of the herbal flavours to it. Also a stolen recipe, but with more of my tweaks on it. There are things that I will not do with my bolognese.
No.
Other people might.
I've got one I've cooked recently.
Oh yeah.
It was just a bit of a hearty one, and you could do it with Hefeweizen as well. I think Hefeweizens are really diverse for cooking with, because they don't have much bitterness, and they bring a little bit of sweetness and complexity. And I was cooking with a Belgian triple, which has a lot of the similar qualities. It's actually on one of the Fellowship of Beers YouTube channels. A little bit of a recipe midway through when we're talking about Belgian triples and Trappist beers. And it was a chicken pie. It was where normally you would have a white wine chicken base and build a creamy roux around it. It was a winter vegetable brewer's pie, something we've made a few times. We used some lovely short crust pastry from the brewer's pantry here that we borrowed from Rick. And I believe he uses like stout as the liquid in his pastry anyway. Cooked off some chicken thigh with some butter, some winter vegetables. I had a little bit of smoky bacon lying around. That went in. The Belgian triple, half a glass of Belgian triple as the liquid, and that was all the liquid for the roux. And then it was flour and butter. Sorry, obviously. I ran out of pastry, so I crumbled a load of brown breadcrumbs on top and baked it in the oven, and it was delicious. And so the breadcrumbs didn't burn. I put a bit more beer on top.
Amazing.
Served it with a tiny bit of beer gravy, a little bit of fresh buttered vegetables. Triple beer. So cooking with beer is extremely diverse. Enjoying food with beer is extremely diverse as well. Final thoughts on this beer.
Really like it. Really well balanced.
It's really well balanced.
Really well balanced.
What I really, really like about it, Justin, is the fact that most imperial stouts you tend to get these days are super, super sweet. And we know the term coined pastry stout. They've become so sickly, so sweet. And I think both of the imperial stouts that we've had tonight, the Grand Bazaar as well, it's not, you're not going to pour it in.
Grown-up stouts.
They're grown-up stouts, These are for the kids who've grown up.
Even with the adjuncts, it's still a traditional impy stout at its base. It's not been overly added to get effects that wouldn't come just from the brewing process.
Vicky has just said Canadian Goose is a top meat to try. Why have we not tried Canadian Goose?
Speak to the chef.
Is it not Canada Goose?
It says Canadian.
I don't know. Is Canadian Goose a thing, or is the Canada Goose what we use?
Don't know, Vicky. We need more clarity. Tell us more about this Canada/Canadian Goose. How should it be cooked? What beer would you pair with it? No stress. No pressure. All right. So the final section, whilst we wait for more clarity on the goose, is just a little bit about hospitality COVID. You've touched upon it already. About current events, going on in the beer industry.
Current events.
You've said we don't know. We don't know. I was listening Radio 4 because that's the kind of sophisticated guy I am. The other day, and it had the high up member of Adnams Brewery in Southwold.
Yes.
And they have a lot of Thai pubs, and he was saying their trade has been affected. And this is just their on-site pub trade by 50% lesser than they normally have enjoy over Christmas. And I would say that most hospitality venues we speak to, friends in the industry, have similar stories.
I think we notice a difference, say, on the weekend, the Black Friday weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as busy as what it usually is.
No.
But then bizarrely, we had a lot of people come out for food the week leading up to Christmas.
I think people were, because this is a tap room, it's kind of like slightly different experience, isn't it? They know it's a big space, and I think we're lucky because of that, because people know they can spread out.
Yeah.
But I would say that people have reduced their number of visits in anticipation for Christmas, whereas sometimes you would see the same people.
I think because of the pandemic, people have changed habits anyway.
Yeah,
the whole going out thing is definitely not as prevalent as it was.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more planned than impromptu.
Yeah.
So previously, people might have thought, "Oh, we'll nip out for a beer, such and such, maybe in the pub or at Steam Machine or whatever." And now they're like, "Oh, well, we haven't planned to go out. We won't." Or they'll maybe check that everybody else is going to be in attendance and then go out. So it's not, you don't get as many people who would just go on spec because they just don't know what the landscape is.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So current industry news, that's what's happening.
Yeah, we don't know.
But despite that, we're going to roll with it. Andrew Hill said things will pick back up. Yeah, we're sure they will. We're a very optimistic industry. We always have beer. How can you not be optimistic if you have a beer in hand? So that's coming to the end of the All About Beer live show. One thing I will say is that if you have enjoyed us talk about beer, food pairings, beer pairings, and the like, check out the Fellowship of Beer YouTube channel. Follow us for content. If your learning aspect about beer you really want to take to the next level, do check out our All About Beer course. there is currently a launch promotion until the 31st of December. Code will be floating around on the screen presently for that. Don't feel obliged. It is our aim to put out wonderful content for you guys to interact with no matter what. You have no obligation to us at all, but thoughts and prayers are appreciated. If there's any guests that you would like to hear from, if there are any subjects you would like us to cover, if there's any questions you would like to ask, get in touch with us. You can drop it on these lives as well. It's all gratefully received. And if you have any burning questions you want us to ask before the end, get them in now, and we will discuss them in the after party as we move over to the settees over there and have a look at some of these tasty naughtiness and crack open our after party beer, which is another caps off beer.
Oh, look, another Imperial Stout.
And it's another Imperial Stout. This one is only 8.8%, so stepping down.
Yeah. Well, we did something nice with that as well.
But it has been aged in a Jim Beam wooden barrel.
Spent 18 months in a cask.
18 months? That's outrageous.
Yes. And then 5 months in a bottle.
I've tried this beer on draft.
It's a veteran.
Did you?
There wasn't much on draft, I do believe.
It was at our beer festival.
Oh yeah, it was at our beer festival. Oh yeah, it was. I can't remember where. We bought it. Yeah, it was on our beer festival. No,
I think I might have poured a pint.
I think you poured pint.
No wonder you can't remember.
There was a lot of Imperial Stouts happening that weekend. And that's about it from us. If you have enjoyed All About Beer, and you would like to see more of this, then like, share it, comment on it, and we're going to leave it there. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to our guests, Phil Norman. He had to travel far from downstairs. Thank you to Justin Cooper.
Pleasure.
Had to travel far from the next village along.
Village people.
And thank you for joining us on this brisk, windy winter's evening. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a tasty beverage. Cheers, guys. Thank you from all of us.
Cheers.
We will be back very shortly in the settee. Hang around if you want to listen to us talking nonsense about beer in a more informal setting.
Pour yourself a beer.
Or pour yourself a beer. Time for the loo. If not, just leave it there. It's not going to get any better. Or will it?
We've peaked.
I've got 2 on the one I can see. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being patient with us. We did go down to the busy tap room to try and rustle up some conversation from some regulars. However,
Can't get any conversation out of them.
It being Christmas, and some of the beers are quite strong.
Ho ho ho!
And we just weren't sure that they were going to use as delicate language as the rest of us. But we are joined by
We've rescued
David.
our hospitality manager.
Yeah,
Hospitality manager.
and our gold grey sommelier.
I think so. I just know.
Very good.
Thanks.
And hopefully our chef Rick is going to join us and tell us a little bit about this food that we're busy scoffing. Have you tried to pickle egg? How good are they?
Yes.
Mm.
I'm a great proponent of the pickled egg.
Yeah.
David's had a burger.
Just had a burger.
What was your burger like, David?
It was divine, and it had our homemade bacon in there as well.
Mm.
It was absolutely fantastic.
How good's the homemade bacon?
Really good. Really good.
So, Justin, can you pour us all a little bit of a beer
Absolutely.
and tell us about it? Guys, any questions? We are receiving them. I've got my laptop here,
Well,
like a pro.
as we touched on in the live show itself, we just brewed a regular imperial stout. No real adjuncts, no real messing around.
So, just for people watching, what would you describe as an adjunct?
Anything that you add outside the normal ingredients list of barley, water, hops, yeast.
So
anything
it
else.
used to mean just other fermentables like adding maize or rice to sub out your barley. But now it's become, especially in stouts, it's become anything that we add in other flavours and stuff, isn't it? Joanne Ridley has just said she and her husband were in tonight. What community we have right now, and a big wave. I was going to get you both up here. You were going to be my sober, lovely, smiley customers. I was going to get you to join us up here for a beer. Went down and you'd left. Just the riff-raff left. Jokes, riff-raff, jokes.
So, yep.
Which is my glass. This
Standard imperial stout, and as we said, we then put it into ex-Jim Beam bourbon barrel, and just left it alone for 18 months just to mature, take on any of the whiskey notes, take on any of the wood, just to really add depth and complexity.
18 months is outrageous, by the way.
Why?
It's a long time.
Is that
for beer in the wood?
Is that because any more than 3 months is just a waste?
Who told you that?
I think it was you.
Quick one from Colin. We came out for Steam for tea on Monday. Good man, Colin.
Cheers, Colin.
Yes.
Do you remember this beer from the beer festival?
I do remember this. It was serving from the Tuk Tuk.
Yes.
Of course it was.
Yes.
Of course. Where else would you
Why
get
would it
it?
not be served from a
So the
tuk-tuk?
initial pour, you get quite a almost a Mackeson's kind of head to it.
Yeah.
Nice and thick rather than.
No, I think I prefer it out of the bottle
Oh, you mean
than to
you
draft.
poured it in a glass rather than like straight from the bottle?
I prefer.
in a green wrapper.
Oh, I like that.
I prefer
Yeah.
from the. I think it tastes better than this than this draft.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
I think because you get a completely different carbonation level.
Yeah.
And obviously serving temperature. This when we bottled it, we've always said to anyone who's bought it, at the shop or at Christmas markets, is make sure you get it to room temperature.
Mhm.
Make sure you treat it like a red wine, or preferably get like a nice bulbous glass and really get it swirling around just to release all that flavour.
We'd just like to say, depending upon where your room is, if you are a southerner, stick it in the fridge. If you're a northerner, you're good to go. Colin
Don't
Granger.
drink your imperial stouts fridge temperature.
No, it closes everything down.
Because you want everything to come out that's hiding in the beer. The same with the imperial coconut that we just had. You can't have it too cold because it suppresses some of those notes, especially the coconut.
Yeah.
You really need the warmth to get that nuttiness out of it. So,
I mean, I don't want to spoil future All About Beer live shows, but one thing we will be talking about this summer is camping beers. And I think the Imperial Stout is the perfect camping beer because you don't have to walk a
Doesn't have to
long
be
way
cold.
to the toilet. It doesn't have to be cold.
Doesn't have to be
It's
cold.
great. And it's light if you're on a backpack compared to a 6-pack of lager. Colin Granger says, does Capsoff have a tap room at their brewery?
we don't currently.
Only for secret people.
Well,
I've drank at the Capsule.
I've
Tap
still
Room
never
at the
been to
brewery.
your brewery.
It better be.
I've had a beer there.
So we installed a tap wall at the brewery because the initial plan was when we put the cold store in at one end of the building, we installed a direct draw tap wall, 25 lines. We share our brewery space now with Hobson Dots Brewery.
Oh yeah.
So when John got his new kit, it was supposed to go somewhere else. That didn't quite happen. He came and said, "Can we put it in your place?" So we did. So it would have been almost half his, almost half.
So
ours.
the tap room would he have had his beers on tap
Yeah.
as well?
So out of the 25 taps, we would have left space for guest beers in the middle,
Yeah.
and then Hobson Dots on one side, Caps Off on the other. As things have gone, we just don't have enough space.
Just to put that into
have
context for Steam Machine fans of the first brewery, less space than Steam Machine Brewery number 1.
Yes.
What in Caps Off?
Well, just because of the pallets are triple stacked.
Yeah.
The conditioning tanks. It's a lovely building. It's got beautiful timbers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, it's a really nice.
Which has to be all clad because you can't have all this stuff.
Would you say you want something bigger then at this point?
We are actively seeking somewhere bigger. We're looking for a bigger brew kit, bigger space. We're looking to go about 5 times what we're doing now. But to encompass having the tap room and to house all of our mobile units, for everything we do outside, have the kitchen in there as well as everything else we do need a bigger space. So it's kind of, we'll keep the old space because the ideal would be we can start a new barrel aged project there, so we've got space to do something that we can keep tight, and then we could open that as a tap room as
You
well.
say you'd always looking to keep a presence in Bishop Auckland.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how Caps Off started, and we can't kind of leave that behind. No matter what we do or where we go, that's the brewery's home and the shop's home, and we would never abandon it. So by moving the brewery from that current premises, it gives us a chance to develop that into what we wanted for it initially, but just space constraints, we just can't do it. And my bare hands put that together.
Bear, Caps Off Bear.
Barry.
Yeah, that was horrendous.
Guys, if you are just joining us, this is the after party for our All About Beer live show. So you've missed the educational segment, you've missed the bit where we're actually talking and making sense. This is the bit at the end where we have moved to some settees to have an informal chat about beer and to carry on asking your questions. So any questions you have about beer, about the beer industry, or if you are our students from the All About Beer course, we are still sounding sensible at this moment in time. So students, please ask away as well. Anything you would like to ask, we're here for you. And for the beer. I think there's a question just coming up. It's not quite visible, but I can see it's on its way. We've got a little bit of a lag time for the screen.
Does it look Christmassy, by the way?
It does look very Christmassy, I think. I like these lights.
Does it look like the star's been placed up next time?
I have to say,
Star is always on.
it doesn't actually. It's in between us. George Dodds is going to make the pilgrimage up in February. George is one of our graduates from All About Beer cohort of 2021. George, it would be awesome to have you here. Give us a shout in advance, and we'd be delighted to show you everything about our brew kits and stuff like that. And if we time it right, you could even come and join us for a brew day.
For a small fee, was that?
It's got to dig out.
Yeah, you've got to challenge Phil to a squeegee battle.
Good luck.
Squeegee Wars. I was going to say, we've got one more beer to try tonight, don't we?
We do. Schlenkerla. I think we need fresh glasses.
Tough. We're out.
I can see two.
Are you guys going to have fresh glass? I won't.
I'll go dirty.
I'll
Well,
I don't mind.
Sure you will.
David, have you ever had this beer?
I have not had this beer.
This is Schlenker's Doppelbock. Now, interestingly, you said your favourite beer the other day was the Smoked Hells from Donzoko Brewery. Well, I wonder if that was inspired by Schlenkerla Smoked Hells, which doesn't actually contain any smoked malt. It's just brewed on Schlenkerla's brew kit, where everything else smells and tastes of smoke. So it just imbues it with someone.
I think the Don Zoka one was beech smoked malt.
So Schlenkerla used beech smoked malt for everything, apart from this beer, which is oak smoked malt.
Correct.
And this is their...
You know your beers.
I know my beer. I should do this for a living. This is their Doppelbock. Doppelbocks are double bock beers, strong bock beers. If you're interested more about this beer, where I talk about it before I've had beers, including a little food pairing, we do have a YouTube video of this beer, which we did. For me, this is a wonderful winter beer. It's completely different than the sweet, than the spiced kind of beers that we've been drinking already. And it just like flips it on its head. It's such an intense beer. Well, you guys tell everyone.
I can smell it.
It's like smoky bacon.
Smoky bacon.
Yeah.
I've done a video of me talking about this beer, so I'll wait till you guys.
I needed more of a ham to.
That definitely more ham,
because that is really powerful.
A wonderful question here from Stephen again. Any quick tips for a home brewer wanting to add craft type flavors to a brew? Chocolate, citrus fruits, or chipotle? I mean, it depends which of those flavors you're going for, because you can achieve flavor in multiple different ways.
You've got to be careful with fermentables as well as your fruit and stuff.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's a really good shot, because fermented fruit does not taste the same as fruit. I mean, one piece of advice I would say is that whenever we are trying to add layers of flavor to a beer, we try to look at it from different points of view. So we will, let's say, for instance, whatever it is, if we're trying to add a fruit flavor to a beer, we might try add the fruit skin at one stage. We might try add fruit puree at another stage. We'll try find a yeast which expresses some esters of some of those same flavors, and we'll complement it with hops, which also marry well with those flavors or suggest those flavors. So you end up with an assault of 4 or 5 different layers of that same flavor to complement each other. As for chipotle, well, you know, we have used chilies in our beer quite a few times, and some of the best times we've ever used them have literally been in stouts post-fermentation and just infused with other flavors. We did chipotle and vanilla actually back in brewery number 1. Did you
Did you
try
add the chilies direct to tank?
We added them directly to a homebrew Cornelius keg after fermentation, and we just allowed it to sit there for a week. And the vanilla and the chipotle infused into, it was a treacle toffee stout actually. So we had a 10% treacle toffee stout with an extra layer of vanilla and an extra layer of chipotle. It was far better than within the Lapsang Souchong Smoked Porter Carolina Reaper, which at that time Carolina Reaper was the hottest chili in the world. Yeah, I mean the form of the beer was like pepper spray. It was like if you smelt it, it was horrific. So yeah, if you're gonna have Carolina Reaper, go sparingly.
Like they said with the chipotle one, did you go kind of back to the beginning of the ingredients list and look at what hops you were going to use to get a spicy pepperiness, so then you don't have to add too much?
I think if I was going to do it again, I would complement it with malts. I would look at like special bean malts. I would look at possibly using a Belgian yeast that would produce some nice spicy flavors.
Because the chipotle is quite a smokiness as well, isn't it?
But this is the thing with chilies in general, isn't it? Because people associate them with heat.
Just pure.
It's so fruity.
Well, it's like Scotch bonnets, like tropical fruit bombs, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, like they're like mango and all sorts you get from them. So,
and then it's about how you use them, because, you know, for instance, take just garlic. If you were just to roast your garlic in the oven, it takes away that heat, astringent onion elements, and then you're just left with that lovely
caramel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's how you treat them before you put them in. So if you're quite subtle in the beginning, you don't have to go too far at the end, do you?
As for citrus fruits, there's loads of different ways you can get citrus fruit flavors into beer. One of the best homebrew ones I ever did was actually using kaffir, like Thai lime leaf, because I'm lucky enough to have a little tree. That was a gift from a colleague a long time ago. He immigrated, so I gave him this tree. Thanks, Robin. And I used the kaffir lime leaves, and I infused it in vodka. You can't do this on a commercial scale because you're adding spirits to a beer, which is kind of frowned upon by HMRC because they want their money's worth. Sorry, HMRC, if you're watching this, we love you really.
You freeze distill it, honest.
So you can do like a tincture. We've done a tincture of like lime zest, of lemon zest, and like say of these like Thai lime leaves, and then we've added that at packaging into like a keg, and it really infuse it. But you can add like citrus purees, and again the hops. And we're talking about citrus fruits, and different citrus fruits give off different elements. Well, you have wonderful New Zealand hops like Motueka, which give off like kind of lime flavors. You've got Waimea, which is another New Zealand hop that gives off orange flavors. And then, to your neck of the woods, Stephen, you have Scandinavian yeasts, which also exhibit some of those characteristics as well. Voss gives off these orangey elements. But if you're going to go down the yeast route, you do need to be careful with other flavors they can give. So Voss can also heighten bitterness, so you have to adjust hop ratios during boils to counteract.
With Voss, you get really like tangy green apple.
Tangy green apple as well, yeah, which can work really well with citrusy elements. So home brewing, the world is your mollusk of choice, really. Guys, Schlenkerla Oak Smoked Doppelbock. Tell us about it.
It's like I say, it's really powerful aroma. It was sitting there and like going, "Oh, I'm dead smoky." But then when you taste it, it's not that powerful in your face. No. It's
really nice, well balanced.
Yeah, it's like for such
almost
a powerful
Moorish,
smell. Yeah, it's really clean, and you're like, "Oh, I will have more of that."
Yeah,
I didn't think I would.
So it probably has been lagered as well, like most German beers, and this is kind of like some of the early techniques of lagering come from beers like this. And speaking of lagers, Joanne Ridley has said keep brewing, Hannah. It's a beautiful beer, especially in a frozen glass.
What is Hannah?
Hannah. So Hannah is the name of the first ever lager malt, which comes from the Czech Moravia Valley. And the reason it's so special is because there was no such thing as pale lagers before the Czechs invented the Pilsner. And, look at it however you will. Brewing is a very friendly world, or you could look at it as industrial espionage. They went over to a little place called the UK, and they learned how pale malt was made. Everyone else's beers in the world, industrial beers, tended to be more of a brown colour. The British had invented pale malt and had invented a reasonably cheap way of doing it in the 1600s. And so we were leading the world in terms of pale beers. And the Czech brewers borrowed, slight correction, a German brewer in the Czech area borrowed those techniques of just get convoluted, borrowed how that pale malt is done. And the first malt that they did with that is Hannah malt. So the first Pilsners in the world, those first pale lagers, used this Hannah malt, and that was in the whole of the 1800s. Now that malt went extinct towards the end of the 1800s, and our maltster Chris, they've been working really hard for the past decade, bringing back heritage malts. Chevalier, Plumage Archer. And mild malts. They've been bringing these malts back from the dead, and Hannah was one of the first ones that they did. And there was only 14 ton of the first harvest, and we were lucky enough to get a ton of it. So we were one of the welcome guys.
Hiya.
We were one of the only breweries in the country to get hold of Hannah malt, and we thought the best thing we could do to acknowledge this is to brew Hannah lager with it. And this is the third time we've had it. We tend to do it as a winter brew. We've got another batch of it in the tank. So fear not, Joanne, because there's plenty more to last us this winter. Guys, we're just talking about beer. Would you like some? We've used your clean glasses.
Yeah, we've got any beer left.
I'd like a bit. I'd have a dirty glass.
What's the Grand Bazaar?
There's a Grand Bazaar, or is there a brewery there? Oh, there's some few.
Grand Bazaar sounds pretty awesome to me.
There's some left in the as well.
Cameraman Jeff, there's some glasses behind the bar, underneath there.
Behind the bar, Jeff.
Also, Joanne Ridley, awesome second name. That's my middle name, Ridley.
Ridley, strong name.
Northeast, strong.
Joanne.
That's what I said, didn't I? It's been a long day.
So, guys, can you tell us a little bit about the food that we've been lucky enough to taste tonight and how beer was used in the cooking of it?
So you had some charcuterie in-house, some pickles in-house. That's now spaces from, which is always good. That's what you want to see. Great place. So the pickles currently are in-house. Brown ale vinegar it is currently. So we converted some brown ale about 4 to 6 weeks ago into vinegar. We've now got our own pickles in it. The pickled egg was also in the brown ale vinegar just because we're lording over it at the minute. But that was a little bit of chili ferment in there as well to give it a bit of spice. The charcuterie, the pork on there was brined with chasing nail, I think it was. So that was brined with a lighter beer just to give it a bit of hoppy nature and not affect the colour too much. Basically just using beer as the brining solution for a lot of products because it adds flavour as opposed to just water flavour. So you have other flavour profiles that you can tie in with a savoury dish. So various umami profiles, from hops to bitterness to vinegariness to sweetness. All those things can be adjusted and tied in with food.
If you were going to give someone a top tip at home for cooking with beer,
I'd say give the Yorkshire puddings a whirl and see where it takes you from there. You know, if you replace the water content, replace the milk content with any beer, so a dark beer, a light beer, whatever you're doing for your dinner, and then have a try of that, and then see where that takes you because it's a bit of an eye opener. It's like, yeah, actually.
So with your Yorkshire puddings, are you replacing all the liquid,
all the milk content with beer? So you still need the egg content, you still need the liquid content, which is beer at that point, and obviously you're plain flour, etc., etc. But yeah, the beer in that it just disappears into the background flavour profile. It adds just a really nice, whichever beer you use, you know. So we even tie the dark beers in with the light meats, the light beers in with the dark meats. It all kind of works quite well.
And that's really important to say. Just because you cook with beer, it doesn't have to taste the beer.
No.
If you cook with wine, it doesn't have to taste the wine. If you cook with any one ingredient, it doesn't have to taste those ingredients.
No, they'll take the chicken pie. You know, it's you know, there's beer in the pastry in a chicken pie. There's beer in the velouté mix, which makes the stock for the chicken pie. So all the liquid content in the chicken pie is beer, but it does not taste like that when you eat it. It's not like eating a load of beer. Otherwise, that would not be nice for most people. So I just add a richness to each layer, providing that you're controlling the flavours. You know, so you know any strong flavour can run away with you. Well, you know. Temper it a little bit and work with it and see where it takes you.
Top tip. Guys, shall we finish on our last beer, which is, we can have a little bit less because we have the other one, which you guys, for Christmas, you got Sammy Klaus beer.
It's probably one of my favourite
well, we got the barrel aged version as well.
Excellent.
So we'll finish on that as a direct comparison. Or we'll have a little splash. You guys deserve it more than us. You're working hard, feeding everyone on this busy Christmas evening.
Busy tonight.
It's been a busy evening. Thanks for everyone who came along. I'll have a little splash.
I also have a wallet in gin. Yeah. It's a really awesome piece of kit. 1 second.
Well, that kind of brings us to the end of our first All About Beer live show. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've enjoyed the discussions we've had along the way. Next month, we will be, we don't have a finalised date, but watch out for socials and all of that kind of malarkey. We will be talking about Tri-January versus Dry January. Now, Justin, as a man of the fellow beer industry, why would you say Dry January is a ridiculous notion?
I think it's a fallacy because we're not expecting people to go to pubs, tap rooms, wherever, and just drink alcohol. I think the misconception is that we're all just beery places for drinking. And as most of the people have pointed out this evening, you know, there's a huge community element to it. There's a huge food element to it. And there are plenty of low alcohol, non-alcoholic, other beverages that people can have. And I just, my personal view is you shouldn't be demonizing the whole industry that just happens to produce beer.
Yeah.
You know, you can go to pubs and not drink, not a problem. There are plenty of very good options out there. You don't just have to have a coffee or a Coke anymore. And I think that's where it lies, especially when you consider that we're sandwiched then between Stoptober and dry January. It just doesn't work in my mind. And now you look at, well, in the second year in a row, we're doing that to an industry that is the test bed for any preventative measures. It's just, in my opinion, unfair.
I mean, Phil, I remember at the start of the pandemic when all the pubs were shut, and I remember Phil's Facebook status on his personal Facebook page was because LOL and some people did dry January. it was like just absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's like, why are you punishing yourself? You know, January is the most miserable time of the year. It has the highest rate of suicide. It's the darkest, coldest. It's the time most likely to get snow, frost, and ice. People think winter's over at the start of January. It's not. The cold season is yet to begin, boys and girls. What better way to enjoy the cold season than with friends, with family, you know, curled up with beer in a pub with fire in. That's the whole convivial nature of beer.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there as well with, you know, the mental health aspect. If you're then confining people to their homes where they can order as much alcohol by delivery as they like, that's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
If you're in an environment like this where everyone is there for the enjoyment of being together and you're being monitored, for a better term, by the staff for your alcohol consumption, you ended up drinking less when you're in the pub than you are anywhere else.
If you don't want to come and drink beer, come and eat some food.
Yeah.
Support your independence.
And you know, the alcohol is then being cooked off, but you're still getting the pleasure of it working so well as an ingredient.
Just a quick comment here, nice comment here from Helen. She said, thanks guys, she enjoyed that. She's picked up her lads' homebrew kit via Capsoft 2 years ago. They called in, found a kit seller who had to hand over to a young brewer. Been an interesting, sometimes challenging water and electricity journey. Enjoying the food talk, especially as her background is more and more. Good night. Thanks for joining us, Helen. What I would say quickly, and I'd like Phil's thoughts and anyone else's thoughts on Trianuary. Would you like to tell us all a bit about it as an alternative to dry January?
The concept is brilliant. Like, just support. It's basically about supporting your independence, isn't it? It's your independent producers, your independent venues. Get out there, try something you haven't, eat something you haven't eaten before, drink something you haven't drank before. It's not about going out and having 15 beers. It's about going out and having something you've never had before. Try something different. It's about supporting your local businesses, supporting your independence.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, if you want to moderate, if you want to reduce your alcohol consumption for January for changing lifestyle, then go spend more money on something that's higher quality. You know, you could go out. It sounds ridiculous, but I drink less beer now than when I was a professional teacher. Well, it doesn't sound ridiculous to anyone still who's a teacher. You know, I drink less beer now owning a brewery than I did then. But I drink far better quality beer. And it's like, if you want to moderate your consumption, you can moderate it. You can splash out. You can find a brewery that you've never had any of their beers. Go for something of their specials. Have one bottle in a weekend. Still thoroughly enjoy it. Have a good time. You've supported an independent business, and you don't have to feel like bad for doing it. You can actually feel good because you've helped the industry as a whole, which has suffered throughout the pandemic.
Well, that's the only thing I would say on the matter is why stop for a month? Just that's no point. For me, just cut down over the whole year. You know, like you don't have to have that third glass or whatever. Just stop at two.
Stop at two.
And enjoy it all year round rather than just having 1 month where you're not having anything.
I'd definitely start at 2 of this, yeah.
Yes, this is the 14th.
You don't have a choice.
If you're just joining us, this is the 14% Sammy Klaus Barrique, which is the barrel-aged version of the Austrian Christmas beer special that's brewed once a year. Barrel-aged in Israeli.
Barrique barrels from a winery in Galilee in Israel.
I mean, that's
Sweet as is.
It's very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
It must be. And you know, a 330ml bottle has just gone between all of us. So
I think I prefer that.
I love it. It's great.
I think I prefer the original, to be honest, but
It's
only by a margin. Only by a margin. That's what I'm telling you. No, but it's like it's a percentage. I just think the same thing.
And interestingly, 330
Oh,
mils
sorry,
is quite a good measure for most cooking recipes as well.
Well, use it in training with cookery a lot. So
Yeah.
picture liquids like, how do I know how much is a litre? Well, you know how much is a can of Coke.
Yeah,
Three of them.
3 of them.
Yeah.
Very good. Right. Well, thank you for joining us, and we hope you come and join us next time. Enjoy safely your New Year's Eve in drinking moderation, hopefully of delicious, tasty beers. And that's where we will leave it, I think. Thanks to our guests. Thanks for the rest of the gang who've come up to join us.
You're welcome.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.